Okay, so we are alive. Okay, perfect. So thank you everyone for joining us, being here, being in this now moment. I'm going to mute my audio here so it won't give us any feedback. Hopefully, maybe higher vibrations will join us too. Hello, Marie. Thank you for joining. Yeah, like if everyone is joined, like if you have any questions regarding the topic. Okay, so Zoom is saying that this meeting is being broadcast live. Okay, I'm completely aware of that fact. Great. So if you have any questions regarding this topic or anything else that you wanted to share, that's perfect. Like this is like a super huge topic, like how does astral travel work? What are the weird stuff that happen on the astral, since many of us are very much aware of this aspect of our lives. And this is something that happens to everyone, regardless of how spiritually they are evolved or not. But this happens to everyone. Like everyone visits the dream realm, everyone has out-of-body experiences, everyone has dreams. And for the ordinary person, when something out of the ordinary happens, or maybe if they have an ET experience, they just write it off as like being a very weird dream or a very bad dream in some cases. But for most of us, it is very clear that, okay, like something happened, or maybe my subconscious or my higher self is trying to communicate something. And this is the way it comes through. Sometimes it can be very abstract, but other times it can be very clear. But I think the most tangible way you can decide, like, did I actually astral travel? Did I have an out-of-body experience? Is by the way that I recognize it is that I'm always like seeing everything like from the first person view, just as you are in your day-to-day reality, that you look down, you see your body, you see your hands, and you can like interact with your surroundings, like everything around you is kind of tangible. In certain cases, there are like fields that kind of keep you in that confined space or that experience. But most of it is kind of like tangible, like everything here in the physical reality. And also I also can smell stuff that happened too, but I can't really hear or feel like physically, like I can't feel cold or pain or anything like that. Maybe it's different for other people, but I can only feel like this tangible nature to the whole experience. And yeah, like, and also what kind of defines that you're having an astral experience, in my opinion, is that you can actually interact with that surrounding and that event in a conscious manner, and you can actually have an effect on what is happening. And when you're just dreaming and seeing like abstract stuff, I think you're mostly like a spectator of things. You can't really do anything about it. It's like your subconscious is venting all the abstract stuff or all the things that you're like exploring, or your mind is very preoccupied with. In my opinion, that's kind of how you can identify a dream and an astral projection, or having an astral experience. And I'm having difficulty bringing back my Zoom. Okay, I'm back. So thank you everyone for joining us, or at least joining me in this event. And we will see if higher vibrations can come or not. It would be nice if she could. Okay, so hello Marie, hello Rosel, Maricela, Enrique, Soa Without Borders, thank you for joining us. Also Kira, Ramona, Quick Summary, and Marie and Beatrix, thank you for joining us. Much love to you from Transylvania. It's pretty cold out here, although the weather is starting to be a bit warmer, but we were usually under minus 15 Celsius. I have no clue how much that is in Fahrenheit, but it's pretty cold. And I have to leave the house a lot since I have to maintain a fire in the boiler room so we don't freeze during the winter time. Okay, so Marie had a question. How to astral travel and lucid dream? Okay, hello from London, Sharon. Greetings. Yeah, like So we kind of discussed that this can happen to anyone and everyone, especially if you're like having your spiritual awakening and you're like learning stuff. This inner learning mostly happens on the astral. So you have your guides, you have your spirit team that are always there with you, that are also guiding you when you're awake. But when you're asleep and your conscious ticking mind is turned off, then they can come in more and you can go to places to actually learn new things or do exercises or take part in some kind of training that allows you to remember things that you already know. Like this is how you bring forth new skills. And I bet like many of you had those experiences during the night that you're in some kind of rooms or in an auditorium or in some kind of place with other people or alone, and you were like learning new skills, or you were like shown stuff that is happening and you're like getting downloads from that. Okay, so Beatrix from Hungary. Wow, great. Greetings from Transylvania. And also Kuldeep. I'm not sure that I pronounced your name correctly. Thank you for joining us. You're from Canada. Greetings. So yeah, so Marie asked, how can you do this thing consciously? Like I think many of you also asked, and many people are like preoccupied with it, like, okay, like this happens regardless of what you do, like during the nighttime when it is time to travel or to learn or to experience something, this happens to you naturally. And I know that there are like methods that you can like activate your conscious self during the experience. Okay, like I recognize now, like, okay, like this is happening, and I want to be like not awake but aware of what is happening, and I also want to remember it. But I think the most important way you can do that is by setting a clear intent before you go to bed. So preparing yourself, your mind, your subconscious on if you're going to have this experience, like you're setting rules and regulations, how it should work out for you. This is one of the best ways of like regulating and setting filters for yourself before you go to bed, because if you don't protect yourself psychically, and also if you don't yeah, like you don't set regulations for yourself, like, okay, like I'm completely okay with experiencing these stuff, but I don't want to have psychic attacks or parasites come into my dreams or the boogeyman to scratch the underneath my bed or stuff like that. Because if you're not setting intents, you're kind of like open to everything. So you're not saying no to all the crazy and bad stuff. They can totally come in, except if you're like super high vibrational, you're in like a super balanced and happy state in your life, then you're like naturally you're like rejecting those stuff. But if you're experiencing challenges anyways in your life, and maybe you're like in a very low point, then it is like super important to do maintenance on yourself, to do cleansing, and also to do super protection work, because in those phases of our lives we're like super vulnerable to interference and attacks, because we're like lowering our vibration, and all the nasty energies and consciousnesses can like come in and attach to that state of being. Because yeah, like just as I said, you're kind of more vulnerable in that state. And I think like everyone can relate to that. You're much more tense, you are much more irritable, and if something goes wrong, then it can go very wrong. You can get very upset for those stuff. And yeah, like there are beings, and yeah, beings, mostly beings, yeah, but there are also people incarnate here who can like smell blood from afar, and they feed off those people because they're like energetic parasites, and it gives them some kind of weird satisfaction to cause even more harm to people. But yeah, like hopefully not many of us have those people around us, because it's not an easy situation to be in. So quick summary, I'm from Romania, so really greetings from Transylvania. You're from here too? Awesome. I'm from the Mureș County. Yeah, that's what it's called. Or Maros County. Okay, so Sarah Color, Ascended Master Sarah, daughter of Jesus, and Mary Magdalene here. How do you ascend if you live in an area that is blocking your weather in a bubble or portal from dark forces, especially in America today? Yeah, like I think we have that chance everywhere, but certain places are more difficult to navigate than others. Like I kind of have like that perspective now, since most of my life I lived in cities, and the past 10 years I lived in a big city, and that's where I had my spiritual awakening, and that's kind of the environment that I had to work with. And it was very difficult, but it was like making you even more hardier, or you had to be like super careful on what you do and how you manage your own energy, because you're like constantly exposed to all that crap and noise. And yeah, like now I can appreciate something much calmer, because like life led us to a path that now we live in the countryside and it is not as densely populated. I'm also very close to nature, and basically we are out in nature. We have wild animals roaming the streets and stuff like that. So yeah, it was a huge shift energetically. Like I never had that before. And yeah, but you can have your spiritual awakening and expand spiritually also in densely populated areas. It's just a bit more difficult, or you have to put more effort into maintaining your own energies and protecting yourself. Of course, you also have a lot of cell towers and EMF radiation all over the place, but you can have like protection set up for that too. There are tools how to protect yourself. For example, you can have like organite pyramids, or just organite simply laying around the house. Like this is its main component is black shungite. That's like a meteor, which is like superb for blocking EMFs and protection for that. I also have it on me, like I have a pendant of it, but I also have these in the house too, because like everyone has electronics, and sadly our technology is not based on harnessing the net. Oh, my screensaver popped in. It's not, our technology is not based on harnessing the natural flow of nature and that natural background radiation, which is source creative energy. And we are creating this artificial radiation basically, which is destructive to all living things. And that's, yeah, for it's that way for a specific reason, so that we are in a dense environment which prevents us from evolving. But yeah, like we can counteract it to the best of our abilities, and it can really help. Like there's a huge difference if you use these tools like organites, crystals that can block it. It can be a superb help. Even if you like create a room where you sleep, where you can have good night's sleep, like that's like huge. Like I can absolutely testify that. Like having a good night's sleep with organized around you is like super transformative. Like I bet most of you, but me especially people who have like ET experiences, where like entire lives we had this problem with sleep. Like doctors would say, "Oh, you're insomniac and you can't sleep properly in the night." But I had this all my life, even when I was little. And like upon that, you also have all that radiation and noise, which also prevents you from relaxing. Because if you're like constantly bombarded with impulses, also with EMF, that keeps your brain kind of active and ticking, so you can like never relax, and your brain and your mind can never let completely go and go to into that deep resting mode, which is like super important. If you are unable to properly rest for days or weeks or even months, like that can be super aggressive. Like I had that too. Like I thought like I'm going to die. Like especially when we lived in a big city, like it was very tiring. I think I haven't had like a good night's sleep for like 2 months in a row, and it was like incredibly draining. So, but I haven't used these tools back then. I haven't had the opportunity to buy any organite or these crystals back then, but now they are super useful. Okay, so Sharon, definitely setting the intention and asking your guides assistance. Yep, they are completely always with us, around us, and they're there to ensure that everything that needs to happen happens, and everything that is not in alignment with you, that doesn't touch you or doesn't come close to you, like can be like exceptions to the rule, or though when you go deeper into that, maybe that's was also intentional. Like, I don't know, like some very weird stuff happened to me, but yeah, like they were remedied, so I guess it was okay in the end. But still, like, they won't do anything if you don't ask for it. So you're master creator beings, and you're in this reality to navigate it and to do your job the best way you can do it. So we are here because we can navigate this very dense environment. Since we come from the higher realms, we carry much of that knowledge, and we have come in because we're like experts in how to integrate into societies and basically how to manage to survive in this environment while you're also connected to the higher realms. And yeah, like they rely on us, on our expertise of doing the best work that we can. And if you don't want to ask for help, then that's your choice. Like that's maybe your strategy of navigating or learning something new, maybe. So they will never interfere even if you're having a very bad experience, because if you haven't asked for their assistance, they are not allowed to do anything. But I had many occasions when like something very dramatic or very negative happened, and I asked for help like very strongly, and like in a matter of seconds, like the whole situation was like flipped away, and it all went away. All the darkness and scary stuff just disappeared instantly. So, Francisco Nunez, greetings from Chile, greetings. So, Sarah, I feel like I woke to a zombie apocalypse. Hey, like also, I think the CDC last year, I think they kind of issued some kind of protocol in case of a zombie apocalypse. Like, I may got that wrong, but I think I've seen the official posting on their site. It was very crazy, but it's kind of true too. Like we are kind of experiencing this zombie apocalypse. I believe I am a star mother and I don't dream. I think my life is a fake hologram. I'm stuck in a negative dark force. Well, yeah, like this whole reality is, yeah, like it's holographic. Like it has its own tangible substance to it, like just like our dreams. But yeah, like to ordinary people, they say like, okay, like this is real, like this reality is real, and when you're dreaming, that's like not real, or you're having these weird experiences, that's like your, I don't know, your brain is birthing up weird stuff from your subconscious. But yeah, like that doesn't make it less real. You're just experiencing your dreams and your astral reality with a different body, your subtle body, which is part of this physical body too. It's just another aspect of you, and that's just another reality, which is also holographic. The only difference is that that's far more loose. You can do more things there. You can, yeah, it's far more malleable, especially if you're awakened. You can do many cool stuff. Like I think only your rate of vibration and imagination is the only limiting factor on the astral, in my experience. And it's also like very strange looking back. Like I bet many of you had like dreams that you were flying, especially like places that you're aware of, maybe your hometown or your house, your rooms, or whatever. You're having these dreams when you're like flying over these places that you actually know. Like that's also like a sign that you're like rising above your environment in a way. You're starting to awaken, and you're starting to interact with reality in a more awakened state. For I bet like many of you like had experiences that, okay, like you can do this all these amazing stuff on the astral and you're having these wonderful experiences. But when you're like having like a shared experience with people that are more like stuck in their 3D mindset, or they're not as awakened, you kind of see them as they're doing the same damn thing as they were doing in the 3D reality. So they're like completely stuck in that limited mindset, and they like cannot expand, and they're experiencing the same stuff also in the astral because that's all they know, how reality works basically. And it's like I think, yeah, like at the beginning of my awakening, I went to an astrologer and he looked at my chart, and I had like absolutely zero clue about anything like 10 years ago. And he looked at my chart and he said like, okay, like while everyone is trying to learn to walk, you're going to learn to levitate. Like, okay. But when you're going to the astral, it kind of does make sense. Like all the people that are like not awakened, they are like moving about and doing the same damn thing from that limited mindset from which they live their day-to-day reality. And like awakened people who have like freed up their minds, you can like do whatever. Like I think the best analogy is like the Matrix. When you have, okay, like you have the awakened people in the Matrix too, uh, but they are, yeah, like they can do more stuff than the people that are plugged into the Matrix, but they're unable to like bend reality as Neo does, the one or whatever. And yeah, like that's kind of the difference between the people who are part of the system and they're still in that 3D mindset, because they are still perceiving that limited reality bandwidth and they are living from that perspective. And when you had your awakening, like just like Neo, when he like kind of saw the codes running down the walls and he recognized the holographic reality for what it was, then he realized like, okay, like I don't have to play this game like this cat and mouse catching and this fear game. I'm going to rise above it and change the rules and move about and shift the rules of this reality as I wanted to. And that's pretty much what we can do on the astral too, when you're freeing your mind, as Morpheus says. Okay. So LG, I have been getting attacks a lot lately. Ooh, that's not very cool. Greeting from Serbia. Okay, good question. So has anyone else have been getting attacks lately? LG. Yeah, like in the last periods, interestingly, since I moved to the countryside, I haven't had any. I guess it's also dependent on the place too. But yeah, like also having these clearing crystals around you can help, but it's kind of like a background stuff. So that's maybe having crystals and orgonite around that kind of clears the background, negative background radiation and energies. Like I think you had another question. How do you cleanse your shungite? Yeah, like some people put it in the soil. I like to bury it in my garden, or you can cleanse it with flowing water, or some people put it in the moonlight. I bury it in the soil since like the ground neutralizes that energy. Okay, and puts everything back into the natural flow when it is something is buried in the soil. But also be careful where you bury it, like especially if you can do it like in nature or somewhere where it's calm. Like if you bury it in the city where it's very densely populated, I don't know if it's going to do any good to it. But yeah, like having these attacks, yeah, like people cleanse their house with crystals, with smudging sage. And as I have said, these are like superb for like clearing the background energies that like EMF, or maybe if you were having a bad day or something negative happened to you, that energy is like stuck in the room, especially in the corners. You can clear that out, and that's like super helpful, but that's like a background thing only. Like that doesn't really like block out attacks, in my opinion. But to do the blocking of attacks, first you have to like do psychic protection. Like that's, I think, the only sure way to do it, because you can like block like lower interference in entities with crystals, and some of like the parasites don't like the vibration of the sage smudging. Like my mom had a very weird experience that she was clearing her house and she felt like some very cold feeling from the one of the corners of the room. And when she went there to clean it, like she did a lot of smoking there to get rid of that icky energy, and all of a sudden she like felt that this cold presence just like it jumped at her and like went through her body when she started to like shove the sage in that corner, which felt very negative. And it's probably has been a very freaky experience for her. But yeah, like these lower parasites don't like these vibrations of crystals, of sage. There are also other herbs you can, I think it's called smudging or smoking, that clear out negative energies. But the really big one, the interference, like regressive ETs, or maybe people that are like, I know, like you can call them dark workers or who do psychic attacks, like they don't really care about herbs, smoke, and crystals. Like especially ETs don't care about crystals. I guess they can like a bit interfere with their broadcasting or something, but ultimately they're like far above that vibration, so it doesn't really count for them. And this is why you have to have psychic protection in place on all levels. Like I have also multi-layered one around the house too, and also the land that surrounds the house. Can never go too far with protection. And yeah, like it's like a huge topic. Maybe we can explore it in another chat. But if you can also search it on YouTube. I bet there are like superb videos on it. There is no like right or wrong way of doing it, or like just one way of doing it. I think the best way is like try out multiple stuff, see what works for you. And basically, I think the best thing is to ultimately develop your own way of doing it, like the best psychic protection for you, for your vibration and your soul essence. But yeah, just in short, like working with Archangel Michael is like the 10 out of 10 stars method of getting rid of icky energies and keeping yourself safe and also your family. And also if like something happens, like there's like a security breach, like calling on him to cleanse the place and like remove every regressive energy or everything that is like self-serving. Oh, my screensaver came in. Everything that is self-serving, he's like the ultimate like energy to do that. He is incredibly effective. Okay. Okay, we've addressed the Shungite question. Ramona. Selenite pendant and towers help me. I haven't tried that, but I heard that it's very effective. Liba, what's the quickest way to astral travel? Yeah, like so we have talked about the involuntary version when it just happens to during your sleep. And now we're going to talk about when you're doing it deliberately. And this can be a very lengthy or tricky process, but it also depends on you, like each individual. I think it depends mostly how open you are to other realities and like experiencing reality from a different mindset. Because if you're, again, like this is the same analogy as just with the astral realm and people being plugged into the matrix. If you're like very stuck in how reality works in the physical realm, then you will be having difficulties letting it go, because you will learn very quickly that the astral realm doesn't really work like this reality, and it doesn't necessarily supposed to. Like it does mimic aspects of it for certain people, because like that's what you're attracting and that's what makes you feel comfortable and familiar. But when you're actually starting to explore, then very weird stuff can happen, especially if you're like having out of body experiences. For many people that can be very scary, because you're like letting go of the basic substance of you. You're becoming more intangible and more loose. And that can be very scary experience for some people, especially if you're having your awakening process. But it's also like a superb transformational experience, because you're like opening yourself up to completely new reality and how reality can work for you and what you can do with it, basically. And that's like the whole point of it, that I think we talked in the last live event about Doctor Strange movies Mirror Dimension, which is like kind of a dimension or plane of existence where weird stuff can happen and you can like learn and experiment with stuff without actually having any real consequences in this reality. So yeah, like most of the times we go there to learn stuff, in my opinion, or to do some kind of job. But how can you do it consciously? Okay, so like I'm going to do a distinction between leaving your body, doing an out-of-body experience, and like doing astral projection. I think they're roughly, like in general, they're kind of the same thing, because you're like detaching in a certain way from this physical reality, and and part of your being is going somewhere else to explore something that is not here. But in my opinion, like having an out-of-body experience is like a far deeper way of doing it than just doing an astral projection. And maybe I think like remote viewing can be also considered kind of this category, because in that state you're also perceiving something that is not in your immediate surroundings, or something that is completely outside of what you have ever perceived or seen before. Like you can remote view any location, like it doesn't matter how far it is or what time frame it is. Like you can go through time and space wherever you want to go with your mind. But maybe going up another notch, like you can have the astral projection, which you can do, like I do it during meditation. Like you relax, tune into Mother Earth, also to Heavenly Father aspect, tune into, do it from your heart center, do your protection, of course, because you can never know what you may experience or attract. And this is also like you're setting up a filter not to attract stuff that you wouldn't want in your life. Because when you're like, in a way, it's kind of exposing yourself more when you're doing this type of energetic activity. And that's why it's very important to have boundaries and filters on what you can and what you cannot experience. And yeah, when you're like in that deep relaxed state, you can, in some cases, I think the most easiest way is to like create in your mind a form of yourself, like a copy of yourself. It can look like whatever you want to look. It can look like yourself, and like familiarize yourself with it. Like I would do like an exercise, like, okay, like I'm in my room right now and I'm in meditation. I'm like super relaxed, but now I want to visualize myself outside in the garden, or maybe outside in the street, outside of my window. Okay, like I'm visualizing myself that I'm standing on the ground there in my garden or on the street outside of my window. And I start to feel that environment. Like, okay, like I look down at my feet, I can feel like, am I standing on soft grass, or am I standing in mud? Is it soft? Or maybe I'm standing on a cold and hard concrete or stone or something similar. Then like start to feel your body there. Like, okay, like, is it cold? Is it hot? Like, how do I feel in that environment? Like, is it light? Is the sun up? Is maybe like the wind blowing? Are there like any smells outside there? Also look around, like what can you see in that environment? Just like very small steps, and kind of expand from that perspective. Like, okay, like I'm there and let's see how that feels. Like, what would it be like to be in that spot? And this can very much help that you already have been there, because you can kind of have like an idea, like what would it be like. And when you advance further, you can like experiment with places that you have never been to, or you have like no concepts of what it is like. And that's like the very juicy stuff, when you're like getting all these impressions of like a location that you have never known what it is like to be there. And you're getting all this information, what it is to be in that location. And I think like this is like the first step that you can do to really exercise this way of you being able to perceive other realities too. And when you have like anchored yourself there, when you have got the feeling of it? What does it feel like to be there? Like to see yourself being there, like also from a first person view can be very cool. And then just, I don't know, like walk around, like look around, what is there? Is like someone else there? Are people coming there? Are people going? Is something happening there? And yeah, like recognize that you're like perceiving stuff that you're unable to see with your physical senses. So and just go with the impressions that you get, like don't overthink it. And yeah, like this is where it comes in. What just I have said, that how difficult or easy it is for you, is like how easily can you let go of your perception of how physical reality works. Like if you think that you're just imagining it, then it can be a very tricky and lengthy process. In some cases, maybe you are imagining it, like, I don't know. But the best way of working through this process, this first phase of you like really doubting yourself, is just like letting go of all your expectations of you thinking like, okay, like, I'm just imagining it. Like, okay, maybe you are. That's perfectly fine. And just go with what comes first, like your first impressions, because like that's what you want, like that's what you're looking for. Because your other aspect, your higher aspect, is like sending this impulses, and basically your first feelings, your first impulses, the first thing that comes into your mind is the thing that you're looking for. And if you're trying to rationalize it and like distort it because it doesn't really make sense to you logically, and that's the ego mind. So that's kind of what you're trying to put aside for the duration of this activity, because that can very much limit this activity and what you can perceive. And yeah, like this is the very basic exercise on how to experience this. And like you can go like super far with this. So you can visit other locations on our world, and you can project yourself in another space-time. You can visit a past life of yours. You can go back in time, visit stuff that already has happened. Or what many people are looking for, you can project yourself to your ET cousins or go to other dimensions and interact with energies there. You can interact with higher dimensional beings through your astral projection, because your astral projection is kind of on the same level vibrationally as they are, or at least it's far closer to them than this physical form that we have here on planet Earth. So that's kind of first thing that you can do to exercise it. And the more that you do it, then the easier it will be. And you will like, it will be like this fun experience, because like you will be receiving more and more detailed information on what is around you. And also, yeah, like when you're interacting with higher dimensional beings in this way, then they're also communicating with you. And that mostly takes place in the thought form. So they're not really going to talk to you, but you're going to get downloads and concepts. And yeah, like some of them are able to communicate with us, mimicking our verbal communication, like through words. And you will be able to perceive that too in time. Not necessarily hearing voices, like I'm not clairaudient, but it's more like your own inner voice is conveying you information that you wouldn't have been able to know otherwise. So if ETs are communicating with you and you're like hearing them in your own mind's voice when you're like thinking about stuff, and that same voice is communicating with you, then yeah, like that's not necessarily your local mind. They are also like utilizing that same bandwidth to communicate with you, because they cannot interfere with your mind's flow, basically. So they're kind of projecting their thoughts and you're interpreting it in that manner. But also you can I had experiences when I heard like foreign voices in my mind, and that was very trippy. But it was for a very short duration. I think it was mostly to get my attention that they are there. Okay. Selenite is wonderful. Quick summary. Oh, I just jumped a bit too much. Oh my goodness. I think I lost. Okay. So, quick summary. I never felt the need to protect myself. I thought that God doesn't need any protection, and any thoughts or fear aren't from the light. But I listen quite frequently to advice and protection of our energy. Yeah, like we're a fractal of God, and since we're a fractal of that higher aspect of ourselves, we're far more limited and far more vulnerable here in this dimension, especially since it is very hazardous and many weird stuff can happen here in this dimension. If you're not afraid, can anyone harm you? Yeah, like that absolutely shifts the whole experiences. And my answer is I don't know. Like I definitely felt a very strong shift, like in psychic attacks, when in the beginning I was very much terrified and even shocked because I was like completely unaware of like what the hell is happening with me. But after I have let go of my fear and like even after that, like very scary stuff happened, but I wasn't scared anymore. And that like I was just okay, like acknowledging like, okay, like this is happening. I'm observing it, but I'm not afraid. And from that point of view, like you can very easily shift the whole experience because like you're not panicking. If you're in fear mode and it's like a very dense, you're blocked completely energetically, and that's where these parasites want you to be, because basically they're like bullies and they want to bully people and to keep them in fear because that's the vibration they can feed upon. But if you're coming to from a completely neutral perspective and you're like banishing them, then they can't really do anything because you're not there where they want you to be. Okay, so let's see what else has happened here in the chat box. LF, have to give your guardian angels and spirit guides permission to help. Yes, absolutely. Like they're always with us, our guides, protectors, they're always with us. And also when you're doing your psychic protection permission slip or meditation, you're basically like giving them permission, asking them like, okay, like I need protection and please do so, like filter this experience. Okay, so Ikava, love and gratitude from Netherlands. Thank you. It is that we are experiencing this life, dream and parallel universes because we are in all dimensions at the same time, because all dimensions are connected. Yes, like we are, so we have different aspects and different planes. That's kind of how I perceive it. But since we're in this physical reality, and we have a conscious ego mind which is there to assist us in navigating this physical tangible reality, and since we're human beings and we can barely focus on one thing for more than 10 seconds, we are not aware of all these aspects of ourselves in other dimensions, although you can shift your perception to them during meditation, or if you're like becoming very adept in like changing your own mind's frequencies and your perspective, you can shift your perception to other aspects of yourself, maybe to other incarnations that is happening in the now moment from that perspective. But when we are like here in this reality, like we are barely able to focus on one thing since we live in such a distracting environment, in my opinion, but we're getting there. Okay, so Sharon, you can ask your higher guides as we advance and upgrade, like swapping school teachers or university professor. It makes sense. Yeah, like you don't have to be advanced to ask for assistance from your guides. Like it is simply enough to be aware of them, like acknowledge like, okay, like those guys or my team exists and please help me with this, or like help me overcoming this challenge or protect me while I'm doing this or that. Okay, if this is a hologram, how do I know that this is a real and you guys are real? Like, yeah, like that's a wonderful question that has preoccupied many philosophers throughout history. I will try to answer it in just a few moments. Okay, So basically, from our, like, let's take it from two different perspectives. Like, let's, from our limited perspective, which is like the relative perspective, is the perspective how like human mind can perceive reality and how we are trying to interpret like existence itself. But that's like the relative perspective, like how we are trying to rationalize reality. And you have like the ultimate perspective, which is like the perspective of God, like the ultimate oneness, which perceives everything and is aware of everything inside of its being. And from that point of view, reality is very real. No, like, so, okay, so let me rephrase it. So we live in this universe, in this holographic universe, which is basically, as we have said, it's a hologram. It is not real, it is an illusion, but still the experience of it is very much real. And I think the best way to explain it would be like an analogy. So, okay, like a picture yourself, like everyone has watched movies or played video games, and you're watching this movie and you're like having a very great time. You may be like laughing, or maybe it makes you very emotional or sad, or maybe you're even learning something, and you're having all these experiences inside of you. But still, you're watching a movie and you're aware of the fact that, okay, like in this, on the screen, I'm watching a movie, and that's like pure fiction that I'm watching. Like this, that movie, what is happening, it is not even real. But the experience that I'm having, the feelings that I'm getting from it, what I'm learning from it, is very much real. And that's basically what stays with us. Like that's what we take with us, our experiences. And everything, all of this will fade away in time because it's transitory, it's not real, but the experience of it is real. So we kind of have to have this also like in Hermetism. Also, it's in the Kabbalion, like in teachings of Thoth, as like, okay, like as you're advancing more in the spiritual path, you will be much more aware of the illusory nature of reality. But still, at the same time, you have to be very much aware that you're living in the illusion and you have to navigate this illusion reality. So you cannot like completely float away and tune out of this reality because you're here. Like you're here, you're living in it, and all the laws of physics and the reality apply to you. So just because you're like having this illuminating moment, realizing that, okay, like this reality is an illusion, and if I jump off a cliff, then I will be able to fly. Like, no, like the laws of physics still apply to you because you're like in this reality. Like if you're in the game, then the rules of the game apply to you. If you're not in the game, then they don't apply to you. But simply being aware that there are rules doesn't exclude you from their effect. I try to answer it the best way I can, but probably we could elaborate on this a lot more. So, Ekava, it's because all dimensions are connected and we are experiencing astral travels, dream, and being at different places at the same time. Yeah, that can be very interesting when you're like shifting rapidly between these states of being. Okay, so Sharon, I've been experiencing flight and riding the thermals a few times during meditation. It's wonderful. Yeah, like, and the more you do it, the more vivid it will be and the more easy will it come for you. So try doing it every other day and see what happens. Try to project yourself to places that you already know and to places that you haven't been to, and like see like what you're perceiving. It's like a super great exercise to strengthen your astral muscles and your psychic abilities. Okay. Okay, so Quantum B, Thoth has been communicating with many and using the same tree. Is the significance to using this other name? I think with the name three, like the three initiates, is there significance to using this other name? What does three represent in this case? I am unaware of this. Like, are you referring to the three initiates, since they have like composed the Kabbalion in the form that we know it now? Or this trinity of things? Okay, so quantum summary. If we are growing our vibration, can we get outside of the spam and influence of the lower vibrational entities? Yes. Like if you're like always high vibrational and if you're moving past, you're advancing, then you will find that you will have less and less interaction with these lower beings since you're like moving beyond their reach. And also, like many people are aware that, okay, like you have Earth and there's this veil around it that it was like keeping souls here, and also it was like here to prevent people from advancing further spiritually and energetically. And as you're moving forward in your spiritual path and being higher vibrational in general, you will, you can easily go through the veil and it won't affect you any longer because you're such higher, you're far above in vibration than the veil and all these entities that reside in the veil. Okay. Okay, hello all. Hello, Tauri. So Sharon, activating your Merkabah helps a lot. Yeah, you also have a beautiful Merkabah as your photo. Okay. Like I haven't worked consciously with my Merkabah, although I'm aware of the energy. But I think if you're like traveling, you're kind of using it anyways. But if it helps you to visualize it and to work with it in an active and conscious way, then I suppose it can help. Okay. So quick summary, Sharon, are you activating your Merkabah by leaving the body in a sphere of light and traveling through the universe in the sphere of light? Like I think what I wanted to say, the Merkabah, I think it's part of our energetic field in general. So I don't know if you can like leave your body and activate it then. I think it's part of our being here too. It's like something that's around us, I think. Although I think Drunvalo Melchizedek has like a lot of information and activations on this subject, and also other people too. But I think Drunvalo Melchizedek was the one who like really brought this knowledge into our awareness. Okay. So maybe checking out his stuff will help. So Ramona, which is the best way to activate one's Merkabah for the beginners? I'm not sure. Check out Drunvalo Melchizedek's stuff, and maybe he can help you with that. But I think like if you're working on yourself energetically, you're putting yourself together, you're healing yourself, and that your Merkabah is also part of you. So that kind of also being healed and activated. Because just as your chakras and your energy system, the meridian system, is part of your being, so is your Merkabah and your field around you. And as you're working on yourself, as you're advancing, as you're healing, then all these stuff are activating, coming online, aligning, they're being repaired. And yeah, like everything is starting to flow and function as it should. And I suppose if you're traveling, even if you're not aware of the Merkabah being around you, I suppose you're using it just as you are when you're doing some kind of energy work. Don't always have to consciously visualize all your energy centers. They're just, when you have like a specific intent to do something, they just do their job. Just as your organs and lungs, you don't have to focus on breathing or the beating of your heart for them to actually function while you're doing something in reality. Okay. Yeah, like from I would recommend reading Drunvalo Melchizedek. He also has some workshops, seminars, and good stuff. I haven't watched his things for quite some time, so you can check out his stuff. Okay. So let's see what anyone else, yeah, like if you have any questions, please share it, since we're going to, soon we're going to close the chat. Okay, and this is so magical to my, this is so magical to myself, in all these different forms of life of communicating, dancing on the everlasting changing composition of the universe. Indeed. Okay. Okay, thank you. Let me see if there are any more questions. Illumination Matrix. Hello. Okay, Sharon, Merkabah, Ramona, thank you for answering the Merkabah question. Okay, so if nobody has any more questions in the chat box, soon I will close. Yeah, like I also wanted to share in closing that I've been researching and working on creating a Patreon community. Like it's so awesome to connect with everyone through these live events, although it's kind of limiting. But through Patreon, we will be able to chat more thoroughly. We will have like our own Discord channel. Also there, if I do like a similar live event like this, and like any of you wants to participate in the chat, like I can select users, anyone who wishes to participate, and you can come into the chat with video feed or just audio, whatever works for you, basically. And yeah, like we can have like discussions, like many of us coming together, having a chat about like what everyone is going through, what you're experiencing, or maybe you're having difficulties with someone, and like people sharing their experience and advice on what you can do, basically. And yeah, let's see also how it will advance further. We will see. But yeah, like that's something that I want to do in the coming months. I've been very much guided to do this like a year ago, although I had like zero time to invest in researching and doing it. But in general, like in a teaser way, like I want to do like also there like a live event, like a 2-hour live super chat, just like here, where you will also be able to participate. Like anyone who wants to have a chat will be able to participate. Every community member will be able to see you if you want to. And it will be an awesome way to connect. Also, through the Discord channel, you will be able to communicate more with each other, like posting questions, answers, and I'm not going to be like the only one who can answer or share stuff, like just like here on YouTube right now. Like it's also in the comment sections on YouTube videos, it's like very limiting on how you can communicate, like who replied to what, and the sixth reply to the seventh person, and you just don't know like who said what to whom. And that's very annoying in my opinion, especially like if someone has like a good question and people answer to it. Like that's so awesome. Like I love it when you guys like interact with each other, and after a few replies you can't really follow because of how the comments are structured, and that's super annoying, at least for me. So it will be an awesome way to, yeah, like interact and communicate in a more deeper way, and to be, yeah, like also you will be able to communicate much more better with each other. Okay, so Sharon, Jacaranda Marie, great info. Thank you for joining us. And also Illuminate Matrix. Anyone had dreams where walking is hard, like being underwater or walking through sand? Yes, like in the beginning, there are like realities that are far denser, where your energy is not potent enough. Like in the beginning, when I had my training, I had this super strange experience. Like I'm not into martial arts movies, but I was in this martial arts dojo, and there were these martial arts masters, and I was there and I was like being crushed by gravity on the floor. Like I remember my face being like crushed to the wet stone floor, and one of them just said like, yeah, like his energy is too weak, like he's unable, he can't even stand in this reality. But maybe if you're like raising your vibration, you're working on yourself, it will be far easier. Although there are realms where it is allowed to do stuff, and there are certain realms where you shouldn't do stuff. Like there are like guidelines on what is permitted in specific parts. Okay, so Quant B, you can do that on Zoom too. Yeah, you can, but I don't know, like you have to share the link publicly, and I don't really want like anyone, just because you can also have like spam. Like we also had spam in this chat. I got rid of it, and like the more people you attract, the more weirdos come into. And I do want to filter those people out, to be honest. Like I don't want anyone to that is like want to share or say inappropriate stuff to come into our chat. So that's like one of the best filters to how to get rid of those type of people. Since like my channel started to grow in the past year, in the beginning I I still do attract a lot of wonderful people, and thank you for joining me and being part of our community. But as I noticed that like as my channel is like growing, I start to attract more and more weird stuff, like not just spam, but like weird people. And I don't want them to join our public or at least our Zoom meetings, to be honest. Okay, so Shannon, or Telegram or Discord. I'm going to explore Discord, since that's kind of what connects with Patreon. I want to participate. Let's do this on Patreon. Okay, we shall when the time comes. First, I want to finish the audio book for the teachings of Thoth the Atlantean, and just focused on one thing at once. Okay. Okay, so yeah, Ashley Martinez, who sees symbols? I think Marie, Jacaranda Marie, shared a lot of information about seeing symbols. I usually don't, I just get downloads, to be honest. So, quick summary. Can you connect with high vibrational beings if you're eating meat or you're vegetarian? Like, I think what's really matters is your state of being. Like, eating less heavy foods can help, but like it's not an ultimate defining factor, in my opinion. Like people think that they're doing all these surface stuff, like, okay, like I'm doing yoga and I'm eating vegetarian, but still I'm like, I think it's not the best way to say like I'm a horrible person, or like I treat people horribly, or I'm like behave in very bad ways to people. And you can meditate all you want if you're like in your day-to-day reality, or how you treat people is not representative of where you want to be. So I think you can, I do eat fish from time to time. Like in the last year, I felt this need to consume more fish, for example. But other than that, I haven't really eaten anything like that for 10 years. And yeah, like it can really help to clear your mind. Your focus can be more intense, but it's like I know, like it helps you in 5% or even less. What really counts is like what's inside of you and who you are, in my opinion. All this stuff like what you eat and how you dress, or you're wearing crystals or you're not wearing crystals. These are like very mild surface stuff that can help, but ultimately don't define the end result, in my opinion. Okay. Oh my God, the scrolling. Okay, so illuminate matrix. So you're seeing images. Back then you could add friends. Okay, so we're talking about Patreon. Back then you could add friends here, but YouTube killed that feature. We were connected to good very fast. Yeah, like those features changed a lot in the past few years. Okay, hello Ellie, thank you for joining us. Okay, let's see if anything else is happening. Okay, so I think we're going to close it soon. So, okay, so quick summary. From where can we purchase the audiobook? The audiobook will be a free video with some nice fancy background images. here on YouTube. It's going to be like a 1.5 hour long video that I'm going to post, and everyone can listen to it whenever they want to. It's just going to be long and very complicated. So multiple listening throughs will be required. So Asley Martinez, what kind? I'm willing to share, find meaning to it all. DM me on Instagram. Okay, so please do that. Okay, so thank you everyone for joining us, gathering, for being so interactive and sharing so many things with me. I'm trying to keep afloat of all the messages, but it's also like a wonderful thing to see that so many of you are writing and joining us live too. Thank you very much for being part of our lovely community. And also, yeah, like looking forward to the new moon. It's almost here. And as it seems, it's going to bring some intense stuff in, also in our lives and also in the collective, especially since I guess many of you know that some changes are occurring and we're starting to see some results of all the energy and grid work that we have been doing for the past few years. Okay, so thank you everyone for joining us. Stay tuned and see you on the next event, and also have a wonderful new